Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, welcome to be my guest. Today we have an encore visit by one of our favorite people, Diane Lewis. And again, we aren't related. She married a Lewis gentleman, but it's a great last name, right, Diane?
Absolutely.
Diane is our resident psychic. She's a psychic medium. She has read for me, by the way, and she did a very, very good job. She has her 2 books out. We had talked about those before. But today you wanted to sort of zero in on discussing the paranormal, right?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people have misconceptions of what the paranormal is. And so I think giving them a little bit of understanding is a good thing to bring to the public.
When did you get into this, Diane?
I've always been into this.
When you were a child, you were like this, right?
Yeah. It's one way or another. You're drawn into it. There are things that are beyond the realm of norm, so to speak. But when you're young, you don't realize that because that's normal for you. It's not until I was a young teen when I started realizing, and I didn't have that one big moment, but I did start realizing other people were not having the same experiences as me.
Right.
Whether I threw that out to a friend and they told me I was crazy, or however that developed, I just knew now at that point that my world was a little bit different.
Do you remember your first experience?
I don't have any one in particular.
Maybe with a grandparent coming through?
I can't. I've had so many over the years, and when you're young, you don't. It's not a matter of them coming through. It's you just accept what is.
Yeah.
I was never frightened to be by myself. I never had that, aspect where some kids are. Psychic children, well, we're all psychic, but when children are experiencing it, most of them are not afraid. It's the parent who is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see this on television.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're really hamming it up on there. Was it Ghost Adventures? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, they're really... oh, dude! It's all this stuff. I'm like, it's not scary, really. I mean, I don't feel scared about it at all.
No, I've been into a number of locations that I've been brought into to evaluate. There's been activity, what is happening. And that's actually, I think, very fun because you're going in, you find out who's there and why they're there, because there's always a story. And so when I've gone with other people as well, we try to find out what's the story. Why are they here? And we find some very interesting stories. Some are historical, some are, people who have been lost, some are waiting for someone to tell their story to.
Where are some of those places you've been? I love it when they go into places like old insane asylums, that type of thing. I love it. The stories must be horrendous in there.
Well, I wouldn't be looking to go into an insane asylum
Well,
only because of the fact that energy is so negative, and I don't really want to connect into that.
do you think it's true that, I know Joni Mayhem has been with us before, she actually said that she investigated a place and it came home with her. Is that possible?
You'll have a lot of energy, and it is possible you could have an entity travel home with you.
She had a hell of a time.
Yeah. I mean, I've had, when I've done presentations, I've had someone in the back seat of my car on the way home. And, it's usually children that will ride with me. And, but then when I get to the house, I tell them it's time you have to go.
Yeah. So, okay, back to where you've been. Tell us about those.
Well, those places I've been, have been in historic Sturbridge, and they've been out in the Brookfields. They've been out west more, Western Mass. And these are the ones that have had strictly historic themes coming through. And it's been pretty interesting because some of them are coming through because they want to tell their story.
Yeah.
But until you know why,
Yeah.
it's can be frightening for people.
Yeah.
They know they're there, they don't know why they're there.
Yeah.
And some people are okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, especially if they, you know, I was at a farmhouse that was in the late 1700s.
At Sturbridge Village?
No, this one was in one of the Brookfields.
Mhm.
And, you know, one part of the house was in the 1700s, and then the add-on was like in the 1800s. And it was very interesting. The person that had asked me to come in, she was comfortable with them, but she was just curious as to who they were. And it was funny when I had gotten there, and as we're going through, all the pictures are crooked. They're moving all the pictures.
Who's the
The ghosts. That
entity, the anomaly, yeah.
Yeah, that are in the house.
You saw it happen? Really?
Well, they had done it before I got in the house, but it was interesting because she said to me, I straightened out all these pictures before you
arrived, and now
Yeah. They're all tilted. And that's for them to let me know they're there.
Uh-huh.
And they basically followed around as I was going through the house before they finally would come out. It was like they were sizing me up. And
I've heard about this.
Yeah,
They're
it's-
kind of curious about you, too.
yeah, yeah. So they were sizing me up, and
Did you feel any touches on the shoulder or anything like that?
no. But then I did see a young woman
Yeah.
who, you know, I feel she had been following around in the background, sizing me up until she felt comfortable.
Yeah.
And then when she felt comfortable, she came forward, and she started telling me the changes that were made in the house. She was
Yeah.
showing me the house in her time frame. And what was really neat and interesting was the person that who owned the house told me they had all the background data on the house. So what I was telling them, they were able to verify. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely. We're talking with Diane Lewis, and she is a psychic medium. She's back with us again. We're talking about the paranormal, and Diane experiences this right on. I mean, dead on. This. All right, so you were over there. That did she tell you? Was she disturbed that they had added on to her home?
No, she wasn't disturbed. She was identifying herself because the owner wanted to know who was there.
Yeah.
So she wanted to identify herself, and, you know, just also to let them know she was aware of the changes that were made to the house.
Yeah.
That was her. There was a few others, and that was quite a while ago, so I don't, you know, I have them all documented. But there was also a couple of family members, because this house had been in generations. So a couple generations back, a family member comes through and wants to tell their story.
Yeah.
And which was very interesting, and they had all the history. So this just all was a real neat adventure.
What did the person with you think about this? Was she receptive?
Oh, absolutely. Loved it.
She loved it.
Yeah, she loved it. She knew they were there. She had no problem with them. But she just wanted to find out a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, because and a lot of people cohabitate with those on
spirits.
the yeah, and they're fine with them.
I don't have a problem with it. What it's at all. Maybe I'm unusual, but I don't have any fear of if there's somebody in the house too, a spirit. I mean, I don't know if I believe in them causing havoc. I haven't reached that point where I think that they're evil. I don't believe it. I can't believe it.
I do know that they do cause havoc.
They really can? You
They
think?
can, but they're not doing it in an evil way.
Is it to get our attention?
It's to get our attention. Like, to give you an example, I had someone who was experiencing, you know, the paranormal activity, where the doors were slamming shut and whatnot. It's because they had made a change to the house.
Yeah.
And they were living in a relative's house that had passed,
Yeah.
and they were making a change, and the relative is, in essence, letting them know, I don't like what you're doing to the house.
Yeah, so slam the door.
Right? So they're you know, making it known.
Yeah.
So, you know, I advised this individual to, you know, talk to them and let them know that they're beautifying it.
Yeah.
They're not trying to change it. Because sometimes they're still there and they're comfortable, and it's like you're coming in, you're invading their space, and you're trying to take over. And
Do they not realize that they passed on, or did they not pass on? Did they stay put after they died? Is that it?
some, it could be, and then some, they can come and go at will. So, they cross over, but if they're comfortable in a house and they want to be visiting, they can. They're not, it doesn't mean they're trapped here.
Mm.
If they want to be here, they'll be here.
Right.
If they want to cross, they'll cross. Now, do some get stuck because they're afraid to cross? Yes, that can definitely happen.
Well, that must be an awful feeling to pass away and like the brakes are on. I'm not going any further. No, I'm staying right here. But they're like this limbo?
Right. And it's self-imposed at that point.
I can understand it though.
Right?
I'm not going. You're not getting me yet.
Right. I had one that I was in a reading one time, and he was so mad because there was a car accident, and he perished. It was in the car accident, and he was so angry because he didn't feel it was his time.
Yeah. Was he very young?
He wasn't very young, but he was, around 30-ish.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So but he was really angry about the fact that he was.
I would be
crossed
too.
over.
I wants to go at 30. I wants to go at 90. The Queen of England is 92 and she's going strong.
Right, but some do have that where they're. So in that case, he's free to keep moving. But he may not.
But he might want to stay there and just show his anger all the time by slamming doors, things like that.
Right.
Diane, how can people reach you?
They can reach me through my website at www.dianelewis, DianeLewis.us.com.
Now, Diane, I would ask you a very important question. Do you go to graveyards much? If somebody requested you to go to a graveyard, to their family site, are you able to connect with the deceased family member?
I haven't been requested, but I did when I lived in Saugus. We lived across from a cemetery.
Yeah.
And honestly, even though that's a last resting ground, it's up to the individual. Mm. They may be hanging around the gravesite because someone's visiting.
Maybe they know, yeah.
Yeah. They know the person's visiting, but they're not really residing there. So people may feel them there because they're going to come in answer to the person.
Yeah. Will they answer your questions, or will they be there for you to signal them through?
If they were requested, I've never had a request to be at the actual site.
I'm always curious at my parents' gravesite. Do they know I'm here?
Oh, yes, they do. They do, because, when you're there, you're mentally talking to them.
Yeah, and vocally.
Right.
Yeah, I talk to them.
Okay. Sure. And so thoughts and vocally are both vibrations, and and vibrations are energy.
Yeah.
So you're transmitting, basically.
Well, there's no sign back. Of course, if I had you with me, you probably would be able to communicate, but it's like I keep saying, I'm not seeing it. I look for anything. Give me a sign that you're hearing me, but I don't know.
Well, they may give you a sign at a later date, or maybe in the house, something that they may feel would be easier. Or you might be overlooking it. Say, for instance, you turn around, you're walking, and you look down, you see a penny. That's usually a signal.
A penny?
A penny.
And if I don't pick it up, bad luck, right?
No, but pennies are, and I don't know how or where that started, but they seem to be able to magically out of thin air have a penny. And a lot of people, there's nothing around, and then all of a sudden somebody will see a penny.
I saw one the other day, but I didn't bother to pick it up. Is it a good sign if you pick it up?
Well, pick it up or not pick it up, that
but it's
doesn't
there.
Really, whether you pick it up or not doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
The important aspect is that you saw it. Now, if you make the connection say if you're thinking about them and you see this penny, all of a sudden in your way, that's actually a signal from them that they heard you.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Diane, when people want you to come and give a presentation, are you up to, do you do that?
Oh, yes.
You will. What are some of the places you've been?
Well, I've presented for libraries, and I presented for private companies, as well as I do individual presentations. And, sometimes I'm sponsoring or someone else is sponsoring the presentation.
That's great, because do people, like, there's an audience in front of you, right?
Mhm.
Do you say, would anybody, how do you do it? Do you say, gee, who knows John or who knows Kelly? I'm getting them through. Or do you say, is there anybody here who would like to help me try to connect? How do you do it?
Well, and it's interesting. I just had a group last night. It was between 70 and 80 people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of people, and it was so crazy because we had a lot of dads coming through, and so
my dad came through and you read. Mom was hanging off the background. I'm like, I'm just kind of surprised, and yet I'm not.
Well, if he's the predominant figure,
he ruled the roost.
Well, that's why he's coming forward first,
Mm.
and Mom would be back.
Yeah. But when we were alone, she and I, we talked. We could tell she,
Yeah.
I was hoping she'd come forward, like, you could talk to me.
Well, he was there.
Yeah, he was
she
right
would, she would have to wait for him to leave.
Yeah, good luck on that one. So you had 70 to 80 people.
Yeah, we had 70 to 80 people. And, I had people coming through, and then there seemed to be a rush of the dads. And, sometimes I get multiples that come through at one time. Mm-hmm. And we had about 7 dads coming through at one time, which was pretty fun. And then on top of that, we had a lot just popping in. And, at the time when I'm bringing them through, I'm not analyzing. It's like, wow, there's a lot of dads coming through.
Are there names coming through?
Well, they'll show themselves to me. Names are not the first thing that I get. I might get an initial. They'll throw out some information for me. But the interesting aspect, I had so many coming through, but while I'm bringing them through, I can't analyze why is that happening. I just know there's a lot. But later on my way home, I realized it. A little over a week was Father's Day ago.
Yeah.
And so now all these dads are responding.
There you go. Where people are amazed when you just let me walk around and you say, I'm getting this from, and do people just go, that's me?
Yes, I will tell them what I'm getting, describe the individual, if the individual's showing themselves to me. Sometimes I give information, but I don't see them right at that moment.
Yeah.
And then there are other times when I see them as clear as I see you.
Is there ever a time when, let's say somebody hires you to help them, what happens if I don't know if it does happen, but if nobody comes through, what do you tell this person? Like, I'm not getting anything.
Well, I've never had that case. I can't control who comes through. For instance, if you want a specific person, my rate is very high that I'm going to be able to bring through. But I can't make a guarantee that, that one individual, because it's actually up to them to want to come through. I could bring in everybody else around you, but that one person. So with that, I can't guarantee, but my success rate is extremely high, which I'm proud of. And I'm proud of that because that tells me that those on the other side trust me, and the people here trust me, and I place, I'm honored by the trust both sides place in me.
Somebody that you're working for, I would imagine 9.5 times out of 10, they're thrilled. Is there any time when you might get a lot of tears, like something relaxed? Oh my God, I don't believe this.
Well, there are tears. They're joyful tears, but it can be very emotional.
Yeah.
Because I'm bringing through their loved one, and with that, there's a lot of emotion usually. So and then there's a lot of gladness, and sometimes there's resolution that's happening. depends on what the circumstances were.
We're talking with Diane Lewis, and she's a psychic medium. She's back with us again today. Do you find, Diane, that, well, before we go any further, how can they reach you again?
Oh, they can reach me at on my website, www.dianelewis.us.com, or they could call 617-645-6415.
Diane, do you fear that children come through who've, God forbid, they've passed on very early in life? Do they come through a little bit easier than adults?
I'd say it's all the same.
Yeah.
I've had even children come through, or the entity, who never quite made it into this life.
Yeah. So the ones they were born dead, stillborn,
or didn't come to term.
Okay. Wow, that is something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they come through because, again, it's the energy of the soul, and they're coming through because they want to comfort the mother.
My mother lost 3 miscarriages in between my brother, who's a lot older, and myself. And I'm always wondering, were they boys? Were they girls? Were they? You know, I'll always wonder.
Yeah.
Would I be here if one of them had lived? Would I have been born at all?
Right, and maybe that's the reason why.
What they wanted me to be born? Rather
Could.
than them? Really? You can
Sometimes they, I had a very interesting story when I was doing a presentation. And this woman, she had her daughter at the presentation. And it was so interesting because the daughter happened to have been a twin. And the twin passed.
At birth? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Or the twin passed. Yes.
In utero, or were they born?
I don't think that twin. I think the twin was born.
Born dead.
Yes.
Okay.
And what had happened was the mother had gone sepsis when she was carrying the two,
Yeah.
and her daughter did not get ill at all,
Yeah.
and the other child did, and the other child took it all and passed away.
So were they twin girls or what?
It was a mix. It was a boy and a girl.
Boy and girl. So the one who passed away was
A boy.
and he was coming through.
And he came through to let them know he was fine, and the little girl felt him. She had felt.
She did feel it.
Yeah, she had felt her brother, but he had basically taken it so that she could be born.
That's amazing, huh?
Mm.
That is. Do you find that children are more receptive to the paranormal than adults?
Oh yes, yes.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of cool. I don't know.
Well, think of it with a child. They don't have the fears, anxieties. They don't have all that, especially if they're young.
Yeah.
You know, if they're 3 years old and they're talking to a spirit, they don't know that that's something that's not done, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so they just take it in stride and don't get upset. They actually get into it, you know?
Well, I know I would love it if my great-grandmother came on board. I think I shared with the audience and with you one time that I was standing in the kitchen at my home where I am now, and just minding my own business, and suddenly I smelled Boca Briff or Captain Black pipe tobacco. Now, no one in my home smokes at all. I said, bing! My grandfather and my father both smoked pipes, and they were smoking that kind of brand. I thought, I think I turned around and I was half serious. I went, hi, Dad, or so. It was so weird. I smelled it plain as day, and it
Right.
would not be in our home or otherwise. And it didn't stay long. It was just enough, and I knew it right off the bat.
Right.
Right off the bat. And I don't know. I think I
That
shared it
is
with-
true. That's how they work it. And you know, you could have somebody else with you that wouldn't smell it at all.
I never thought of that.
Yes.
I
And that,
really?
yes. Because what's happening is our psychic senses, and just like our regular senses, you know, the hearing, seeing, touching, all that. And one may pick up on it.
Mm.
You're just in it, you get the whiff, and somebody else could be standing beside you and not smell anything.
Does the spirit control that?
Yes.
they're controlling it, so only they would know that only I would smell it.
Yeah, and only you would have a significance. Or sometimes I have had where the other party smells it,
Yeah.
but they don't.
They don't relate.
They don't relate, and they'll say, hey, do you smell that? Which is a nice validation
Yeah.
for the other person, because then the other person's like, whoa, I'm not the only one who picked up on that.
That's a highly, if anybody, as a relative, one of the men smokes a pipe, and I grew up with pipes everywhere. I mean, the men would
Right.
sit there and talk politics with their pipes, Bochum Riff and Captain Black. I remember those things.
And it's a very distinct
Oh,
smell.
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I could walk into my grandfather's den or my father, and, I mean, you really could smell it.
Right.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm like, your first said, where is that coming from? And then I went, could it be? Because I have a pretty open mind. Could that be?
It is. That's their way to get your attention. Like,
We got it. He did. I'm like, so I took it very well. I just, hi, Dad. I didn't know what else to say.
But see, those are the little signs that people may gloss over.
Yeah.
If their grandma made cookies and they smell it, but there's no source. I always tell people, look for source first.
Look for the source.
If there's no source, then yeah.
Diane, we got to wrap it up. Again, how can they reach you if they'd like to have a private reading or have you come and give a presentation?
They can reach me through my website at www.dianelewis.us.com or by calling 617-645-6415.
And before we close, don't forget, Diane was on before and told us about her books, A Little Inspiration and From Psychic to Soul. And I believe you gave some downstairs, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then they could get these on Amazon?
They can get them on Amazon or at major booksellers or direct from the publisher, Ozak Mountain Publishing.
Anything else coming out? Any new?
I do have another book at the publisher. They're reviewing it now, so I.
What's the name of it?
Fingers crossed.
I can't get it
You
out.
tried to get me last time.
All right. Oh, well, when might it be out?
I got to wait till they're determining.
Maybe fall?
I'm waiting to find that out.
You're going to let me know, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, she'll be back. She's our in-house psychic. Thank you so much for being
Oh,
on.
thank you so much for having me, Jan.
You're welcome. We'll see you next time and be my guest.